but I wanted to say hi. Hi there, my name is Jessica, and thank you so much for clicking on this video today. We are here to do an update on my 2022 Pan That palette, which is none other than my ABH Modern Renaissance palette. So original. If you're into Pan That palette content, or just any makeup content in general, you've probably seen people pan this palette before, and now it's my turn. Before we get into it, if you aren't already, I would really appreciate your subscription to my channel so you don't miss any of my panning content. If you're into that kind of stuff, please join my little community here. It would mean a lot to me. And without further ado, let's get into my update. My goals over the past month were to use Vermeer and Primavera and expand the pans on those, as well as get a good dip in warm taupe. So let's see if I was able to meet those goals. Here's what my palette was looking like at the beginning of the year. I actually started working on it right at the very end of December of 2021. It had some pans in it, but it definitely had a lot more usage to go on it. I've been making slow and steady progress on this palette over the last couple months. You'll see some changes into February and hopefully into March as well. And here we are in the April update. So we've now been working on it for a solid 3 months, and I think we have some pretty good progress to show for it. So here is my palette now. There's definitely some changes to talk about today, so we're gonna go through the palette one shade at a time and talk about how much I was able to use each shade and the progress it has from the previous month. Of course, we'll start with Tempera. I have been using this shade almost every day. In the past month, I was actually able to use it 25 times, which is impressive that I was able to do my makeup that many times in a month. And you can see that pan is getting quite large, and we really are starting to see, you know, just the very edges of that pan remaining, and even those edges that are there are quite low. I'm pretty much just using this to blend out my eyeshadow every day. It's not something that I think will be difficult to try and finish up. In total this year, I've used this shadow 67 times. Dang, that's a lot. I don't expect to be done with it next month, but hopefully soon. It'll definitely be my first empty, I'm hoping. The next shade is Golden Ochre. It's not one of my favorite mattes in the palette. I used it a lot in February and was able to hit pan on it, but since then I've only used it one other time, and bringing me to a total of 12 uses during this project. So the pan might be expanded a teensy bit, but I doubt you'll see much difference there. Vermeer was my first gold shade that I was working on. I've used this 16 times in the past month for a total of 36 uses in this project. And I know you're gonna be able to see some expansion in Vermeer. I have been actually using this as a highlight as often as I can. And I sometimes use it by itself, sometimes I mix it with Primavera, and sometimes I just use Primavera. So using it as a highlight has definitely used a ton of product. I would definitely like to finish up that shade too. I'm gonna take a break from focusing on it for now, but that's another shade that will just be used pretty easily, pretty naturally, not something I have to force myself to reach for necessarily. The next shade is Bonfresco, and I've actually expanded the pan on this one quite a bit, I believe. I've used it 4 times in the past month for a total of 22 uses in this project. And 4 times is not a lot of times, but I use quite a bit of this shadow when I use it, and I use a fluffy brush. It's also just quite low around the pan as it is, so it expands the pan pretty quickly every time I use it, and it is satisfying to see a bigger pan in there. I think that's my biggest pan in any of these mattes that I have so far. I have a lot of purple in my Pan Those Eyeshadows videos right now, so this one will be used alongside those shadows. I used it today in my crease. It'll be easy to expand the pan on that one without trying too hard. Antique bronze, poor antique bronze, this little neglected guy. I used it one time before this update, and in the past month I've used it one additional time, so I've now used it 2 times in this entire project. I hit pan on this in a Pan Those Eyeshadows, and it just kind of burnt me out on it. And I have a similar shade that I'm working on in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, so it's not that I don't want to use it, I'm just distracted with other things. So I will eventually get to that one. It will pair well with a purple that I'm working on, so I'll try and bring that in more in the next month. That'll be a goal for me for this next one, is to expand pan on antique bronze a little bit. The next shade is Love Letter, and this shade I hit pan on during the month of February. It had 11 uses on it, and in the past month I've used it an additional 1 time, so now 12 times in this project. And the pan may have expanded just a teensy bit, probably not a ton for you to really notice, but I will come back to this, I'm imagining, in like the July, August months, and then in the fall will also feel more appropriate for this color. Right now in the spring, I just kind of got burnt out on that shade in February, and I'm having fun playing with other shades. Next we have Cypress Umber, that deep brown, and I hope you'll be able to see that I have expanded the pan on there, or at least I hope I have. But in the past month, I used this 18 times, making a total of 29 uses. I've been using this as a liner here and there on my upper lash line, and I've also been recently using this in my brows, mixing it with another shade, and that's been working really great as well. So I'm gonna continue to use it that way and try and get more of Cypress Umber used. It's really a nice brown. It works really well for a lot of different things, and it can deepen up a look very easily and nicely. So I enjoy that shade. The mattes are just so blendable, and for a deep brown like that, you need them to be, you know, pigmented yet blendable, and that one definitely fits the bill. Graciana is this more like neutral toned medium brown. I've used this shade 7 times in the past month, making for a total of 11 uses in this project, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see a slight expansion in the pan. It might not be that noticeable, but there you go. Burnt orange is definitely one of my favorite shades. I reached for this shade 7 times over the past month, and again, you might see a slight expansion in the pan. This one as well, I just love. It's not hard for me to reach for. I do so naturally. It warms up the crease in any look that I'm doing, which almost always makes the shadow pop just a little bit more. So I'm really enjoying that one, and hoping to get some big pan on there throughout the year. So I've used this 7 times in the past month and 22 times total during this project. The other shade I was focusing on this month was Primavera, and it is the more like golden toned shimmer shade in the palette. And I used this shade a ton. I used it as a highlight, as an inner corner highlight, as a lid shadow, and I was able to use it 21 times in the month of March for a total of 34 uses. It and Vermeer are basically neck and neck as far as usage, and their pans are pretty similar in size as well. So you'll definitely be able to see some expansion there in Primavera. And I'm gonna take a break on those highlights for now and focus on the other highlights in my project pans, but maybe we'll come back to it. And I'm going to focus on other shades for now. I'm gonna keep using it, but I won't necessarily focus on it as a highlighter on a daily basis for the next month. Our next shade is Red Ochre, and I did have pan on this in the past month. I had just hit pan on it after 6 uses, and I used it an additional 1 time this month. So it now has 7 uses total, and I think the pan did expand ever so slightly when I used it, but it's still a very small pan, and I'm not even gonna worry about that one right now. I'm sure I'll get to it in the later months of the year, but for now in the spring, it's not on my radar. The next shade is Venetian Red, another shade that we have yet to hit pan on, and I doubt it's coming anytime soon. In the past month, I only used this 2 times, making for 7 times total in this project. And this one will be on the back burner for now. I'm going to just continue to focus on other shades and come into this one as well in those warmer months like the others. I'll try and dip into it at least a couple times in the next update. Next, we're on to Warm Taupe, and that was another shade that I was focusing on this past month. I did make a great effort at using it during the month of March. I mixed it with Cypress Umber and used it into my brows. That's what I have in my brows today, and it's working great for that. So many people suggested that to me. Thank you. It's working out very well, and I was able to use Warm Taupe with that method as well as in my eyeshadow looks. I actually have it in my eyeshadow look today to deepen my crease just a little bit. I used it 21 times for a total now of 22, and that's a huge jump, which is great. And hopefully you'll be able to see that in Warm Taupe, we do now have a dip on it, and that was what I was aiming for, was to just make that shadow look more used, get a nice dip in it, and I'm super happy that we have that now. It's looking more used and fitting in with the rest of the palette as far as how loved it is. And it is making me just appreciate the shade a little bit more. I'm going to continue to use it with Cypress Umber in the next month on my eyebrows at least half the time. And I would love to hit pan on that shade maybe in the next month, if not in the next 2 months. I have 3 shades in here left to hit pan on, and I'm just hungry to finish the rest of the pans in here before I start expanding. Which brings me to the last shade, Real Guard, this deep orange, which is one of my favorite shades in the palette. However, is really hard for me to make it look used. It's just so pigmented. I used it 6 times in the past month. I really did make an effort to reach for it more and just get a bigger dip going on it as well. So I've now used it 13 times total in this project. You can kind of see a little bit more of a dip. I ended up using my little pan destroyer, my eyeshadow destroyer brush on it to put it into the outer corner a couple times and just deepen up my look, kind of like an everyday way to deepen up my look in a much lighter tone. I would like really buff this out and just use that with like another matte and top it with a shimmer. It's just like a very neutral, wearable, like low-key look. So I was using it that way with that corner brush that I really like, and that did definitely help it to get a little bit of a dip in there. But that one's just gonna be a little bit of a stinker. I feel like it's just gonna be one of the more difficult shades to hit pan on because of how pigmented it is, but that's okay because we love her anyways. Okay, let's talk goals for next update. I'm gonna keep my goals pretty tame for the next month. I would like to expand pan in Bonfresco, expand pan in Antique Bronze, and hopefully hit pan in Warm Taupe. I don't know, that might be a lofty goal, but we'll see. If not, I would at least like to have a very nice dip in this. I'd also like to increase the dip on Real Gar a little bit more, as well as expand pan in Burnt Orange. Kind of a loose, vague goal, but that's okay. I think I definitely will be able to reach those goals, and I'm all about setting attainable goals so I don't frustrate myself and feel like a failure. I like to feel like I've accomplished my goals, not that I haven't met them. Expand on Bonfresco, Antique Bronze, and increase my dips on these 2 shades, Warm Taupe, Real Gar, and maybe hit pan on Warm Taupe. We shall see. Get back to you next time. So that is it. That is my update for my ABH Modern Renaissance palette. I think I am going to go ahead and start weighing this as well, just for fun. I was just kind of wondering, why haven't I been weighing my eyeshadow palette? You know, it'd be interesting to see what difference I'm able to make each month as far as grams go, how much grams I can get onto my eyeballs and out of this palette. On the scale now, it's 184.65 grams. So we will take that number and weigh it again next month, compare it, see how much of the product we are able to use, and I will share that piece of data with you as well in case you're interested. At the end of my video, I will include a montage of all of the updates so far from this palette, and you can track its usage from the beginning to the first update all the way to where we are currently. So check that out if you are like me and just love to see the progression photos. Sincere gratitude for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know if you've ever panned any of these shadows. I know a lot of you have, so I'd love to hear about your experience and how these different shadows work for you and how you like to use them. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.